Hi, I'm Brad Browning, relationship coach and so-called divorce geek. In this brief video, I'm going to reveal to you a powerful method that will save your marriage today, even if you're the only one trying. I'll teach you how to rewind the clock and build a connection that's so powerful that your spouse will break down and apologize for ever questioning their commitment to you and your marriage. It doesn't matter if the romance, passion, and intimacy are completely gone, because now your partner will be fantasizing about you, and they'll find ways to reignite that intense sexual and emotional chemistry that's been long forgotten. And it doesn't even matter if your partner said they wanted to get a divorce, because now the lifelong bond that you share will be so strong that they'll never think about leaving you again. Now I have to warn you, the longer you wait, the more likely it is that you'll continue making the same 3 marriage-murdering mistakes that are pushing you and your spouse further and further apart. So watch this video until the end, and you'll not only learn how to fix these mistakes, but you'll be able to stop the toxic arguments once and for all. And you'll bring back the kind of love that you felt for one another when you stood at the altar and promised to spend a lifetime together. Now, I know this may sound too good to be true from where you're standing, especially if you've already tried everything. And to some extent, you're right, it's not going to be easy. A marriage isn't something that can be rebuilt overnight. But if you continue watching this video to the end, I'll give you the tools you need to stop the bleeding and begin to rebuild the bond with your spouse. After that, it's only a matter of commitment, patience, and hard work. And if you really truly love your partner, if you really want to build a marriage that will last a lifetime, then you won't even think twice about putting in the effort. If you're still skeptical and you're worried that your marriage is beyond saving, let me tell you briefly about Emily and Andrew, a married couple that I worked with a few months ago. This couple would engage in violent screaming arguments every single waking moment, even in front of their 7-year-old daughter, who couldn't help but to beg and plead for her parents to stop. In fact, Emily and Andrew's arguments were so intense that their living room looked like it had been hit by Hurricane Katrina. And when Emily thought things couldn't get any worse, Andrew told her the most earth-shattering words she'd ever heard. "It's over," he said. "I just don't love you anymore. I want a divorce." Emily felt like her heart was being ripped right out of her body. She had tried everything in her power to stop the impending divorce. She begged, pleaded, and even bribed Andrew to stay with her. But of course, this only made matters worse, and Andrew was ready to move out of the home they had spent 6 years building together. Emily was terrified because she was about to lose her husband, her family, and her entire life. It was at this point that Emily came to me for help, and that's when everything started to change. Suddenly, there was no more bickering, no more sleeping in separate rooms, and no more vicious attacks. Over time, Andrew began feeling this weird, uncomfortable loneliness when Emily wasn't around. He began calling and texting her relentlessly. And finally, after 1 month of using my marriage-saving advice, Andrew begged her for forgiveness, apologized for ever questioning his marriage vows, and said the words she thought she'd never hear again. "I love you forever and always." Now, I could go on for an eternity with stories like this, but at this point, I'm sure you're wondering, what did Emily start doing differently? How did her marriage go from being on the brink of divorce to what it is now? And how can I do the same for my marriage? Well, the first thing I did was to tell Emily about the 3 marriage-murdering mistakes that were preventing her from having the relationship she'd always dreamed of. So listen carefully, because you're about to hear information that most married couples will never know about. Marriage-murdering mistake number 1, believing that you can talk your way out of a marriage crisis. Like most people, you probably think that in order for your marriage to thrive and flourish, you need to communicate better with your partner. While communication is obviously important, a lack of communication is not what's responsible for killing your marriage. The thing is, you've been trying to communicate a dozen different ways with your spouse since the first problems arose. But have they worked? Has anything you've said worked? What you need to do is completely transform how you interact with your spouse by using what I call my immediate impact actions. And I'll explain exactly how that works in just a minute. The second marriage-murdering mistake will probably shock you. Right now, you probably think you need your partner's help to save the marriage. You assume that unless your partner's also willing to put in the effort, it's game over. Dead wrong again. The reality is that you don't need your partner to be involved in the process of rebuilding the marriage. In many ways, it's actually better if you take the first steps on your own. This gives you time to rewire your spouse's perception of you and rebuild attraction on a subconscious level before they become aware of what's happening. You don't have to beg and you don't have to plead, even if your spouse is already mentally checked out of the marriage. Which brings me to marriage-murdering mistake number 3, continually reminding your spouse of all the problems that are plaguing your marriage. When you start a conversation with your partner in an effort to solve your differences, you're really just further reinforcing their belief that the marriage is severely damaged. Over time, as this happens more and more often, these negative interactions will force your spouse to feel bitterness and resentment. The thought of you floods their mind with negative emotions. What you need to do instead is suppress their negative memories and make them focus on the intimate experiences they enjoyed when your relationship was still in that magical phase. So now the big question is, how do you covertly rewire your spouse's psychological perception of you? How do you build the kind of connection with your partner that will stand the test of time? Well, I've broken that process down into 3 simple steps. Step 1. Use what I call immediate impact actions to remold your partner's mental image of you. Without any real work on your part, you'll feed your spouse a constant stream of vivid, passionate, positive memories and force them to relive them again and again. Immediate impact actions are designed to eliminate the negativity, stress, and anger that's plaguing your marriage. By using these simple psychological tactics, you'll trigger a chemical process inside your spouse that will force his or her mind to feel exactly how they did when they first met you, and they'll experience a buzz of infatuation and sexual chemistry. Now that you've rewired your partner's perception of you and your marriage into something positive, you're ready to move on to the next phase. Step 2. Stop using logic and reasoning and start tapping into your spouse's emotions. See, everything you've been doing right up until this point, the bickering, the yelling, and the pointless arguing, has been speaking to your partner's left side of the brain, the rational, logical half. But no amount of logic and reasoning is going to compel your spouse to fall in love with you again and fix your marriage. In fact, trying to reason and argue with your partner is only going to help you sign those divorce papers even sooner. What you have to do is to speak with your partner's emotional control center of the brain, or the right side of the brain. By doing this, you'll bypass your spouse's psychological defense mechanisms, and you'll be able to force him or her to rediscover the love and chemistry that's been missing. And finally, in step 3, all you'll have to do is use my Big 6 bond builders to ensure that your spouse never thinks about leaving you ever again. These are simple techniques designed to build the kind of intimate bond with your spouse that will divorce-proof your marriage for years to come. At this point, when your partner thinks about the future, they'll envision you by their side, and they'll be willing to fight tooth and nail to make this a reality. All you have to do is say yes. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Brad, this all makes sense and it sounds like it'll work, but what now? Allow me to introduce the key to saving your marriage. It's a complete, done-for-you, step-by-step system that I call Mend the Marriage. This is a system that I've poured my heart and soul into for the last 10 years, and relationship experts have been hailing it as the most effective marriage-saving system on the planet. Now, this isn't rocket science, but what I can tell you for certain is that you definitely haven't read or heard much of the marriage-saving techniques I reveal in the program. Here's a few examples of what's inside my Mend the Marriage system. In my in-depth Getting Started video, which you'll watch immediately when you begin the program, I'll explain what you should do right now to begin righting the wrongs and ensure you avoid committing any of the most common marriage-destroying mistakes. You'll learn how using my forever phrase will tap into your spouse's positive memory bank and make him or her let go of the negative memories and generate intense feelings of nostalgia so powerful that they'll actually start fighting to keep the marriage alive. I'll explain what to do if your partner continues to resist the idea of staying together and how to get him or her to buy in. And best of all, your spouse will actually think that fixing the marriage was their idea, apologizing and promising that your marriage will never face this kind of crisis ever again. You'll discover the most effortless way to read your spouse's mind and know exactly what he or she needs from you, without even saying a word. How sweet will it be once you have this power over someone? My dispute diffusing system will help you stop any argument in its tracks, leaving your spouse feeling victorious without you actually giving in to any of their demands. This is the single most effective way of preventing conflict in a relationship. I'll explain how using a unique combination of reverse psychology and velvety smooth words will infuse a rush of sexual desire within your spouse. Once you use this, you will become your spouse's one and only sexual drug. If cheating and jealousy are huge issues that have been eating away at your relationship, I'll teach you my forgiveness technique. And within a few days, your spouse will be begging for forgiveness and promising to commit to you and stay faithful until death do you part. You'll learn how to completely shelter your children from the current marriage crisis and make sure that neither you nor your spouse will cause emotional damage to the kids. I'll explain how the simple concept I call a connection account can quite literally divorce-proof your marriage and provide you with a powerful means of maintaining a lifelong, devoted bond with your partner. And it doesn't really involve any work on your part. You'll learn to use my Big 6 bond builders. These are simple but extremely powerful actions that will make your partner forget about all the doubts and uncertainties they have about the marriage and force them to feel closer and more intimate with you than ever before. This doesn't even scratch the surface. All of this stuff has been proven effective by the thousands of people I've worked with over the past few years. For example, here's what Kelsey left on my voicemail the other day.
Hi Brad, my name is Kelsey and I'm from Toronto. I first stumbled on your website when my husband and I were in the process of getting a separation, and at the time I was really desperate to do something to save it. I mean, we had been married for 6 years and we had 2 children together. It was like something that I couldn't just let go without a fight. I decided to try out your program and began applying your methods right away, and at first I didn't notice much of a difference, but I stuck with your system, and after just about a week, I began to see little changes in my husband that I hadn't seen in years. He began paying attention to me more, talking to me more, and even laughing with me. We began getting more intimate, and he kissed me in a way that I hadn't been kissed in years. It's been over a month, and things are slowly getting better, and we've decided not to get separated. Thank you so much, Brad. I appreciate all your help.
And here's an email that I got from Lincoln Schwartz in California. Lincoln says, I had been married for 20 years with my wife, Marie. Over 2 years ago, we felt that the marriage was going south. But since we had been together for so long, we wanted to stick around to see if anything had changed. Unfortunately, nothing did. We fought almost every day. We were bored of each other. And to top it all off, we were in a heap of financial trouble and we were forced to downsize substantially. This put an added layer of strain on our marriage, and she was ready to call it quits on our family. This is when I discovered your Mend the Marriage program. I applied everything you taught, and within a few weeks, I could feel everything change. And just a few days ago, my wife said that she loved me, something that I hadn't heard in what feels like an eternity. Thank you so much, Brad. You've mended my marriage, and I couldn't be happier. Can I guarantee that my system will solve all of your problems? Of course not. But I do know that grabbing a copy of my program today will dramatically improve your chances of salvaging your marriage, even if you think the odds are stacked against you. And what's in my Mend the Marriage program isn't something you're going to learn from a marriage counselor or therapist. In fact, they're often the ones spreading the myths that are destroying your relationship without you realizing it. If everyone knew this stuff, couples counselors could very well be out of a job. I know there are similar programs out there, but I promise you that there's nothing else in the world like this. None of the other marriage-saving programs offer the same level of proven scientific relationship research as mine does. I've done my homework. Maybe that makes me a huge geek, but I'm okay with it if it means my program will save your marriage. Now let me ask you something. If your spouse walked up to you right now, hugged you, and said he or she would be willing to give your marriage another chance and that your relationship would be stronger than ever, how much would you be willing to fork over to make that a reality? $500, $1,000, $10,000? If your spouse truly is your soulmate, then it shouldn't matter how much the program costs, because love like that only happens once in a lifetime. From the moment you met, from the moment you first kissed, and up until the point you said, I do, you probably knew that whatever you two had was magical, rare, and unforgettable. Do you really want to let all that go? Do you know how rare and unlikely it is that you'll ever find someone like that again in your entire life? A few years from now, looking back, you might be willing to do anything for just one more chance to rebuild the love that's been missing from your marriage. There's nothing worse than constantly wondering, what if? Wondering if you could have done or said something that would have made your husband or wife come running back to you, eager to spend a lifetime together. By the sounds of it, it may seem like I'm going to charge you thousands of dollars, but I'm not. I'm not even going to charge you $200. Some marriage counselors charge over $100 an hour, and the cold, hard truth is that more than 50% of all couples that attend professional marriage counseling get divorced anyways. And I'm not even going to charge you close to what a marriage counselor would be charging you. Normally, Mend the Marriage sells for $129, and I've had hundreds of couples say that it was worth every penny. But for a limited time, if you sign up for my Mend the Marriage program today, you get everything you see here for just $49.95. Yes, that's a one-time payment of $49.95 in exchange for a proven system that's helped thousands of couples from around the world get exactly what they're looking for: a second chance at lifelong love. The entire system, everything you need to start the process of saving your marriage, is available immediately after you sign up. There's no shipping fees and no waiting for the mailman to deliver a package. Just download the program to your computer or mobile device and get going now, even if it's 2 a.m. and you're in your pajamas. Again, this offer's only available for a limited time. If you choose to leave this page today, I can't guarantee you'll ever get this $49.95 offer again, so grab it while it's still available. Look, I know that despite everything I've said in this video so far, you may still be skeptical. And fair enough, there's a lot of garbage for sale on the internet these days. But to prove that I'm not a fraud and that this program really does work extremely well, I'm going to guarantee your success. Here's the deal. You sign up for my program today, read it cover to cover, and apply the step-by-step strategies I've laid out. If, for whatever reason, your marriage still isn't where you want it to be, if you aren't absolutely ecstatic with the results, and if your spouse isn't willing to give your marriage another shot, I'll give you 100% of your money back, no questions asked. And don't worry about rushing the process either. You've got a full 60 days to apply my techniques and rebuild your marriage. That's right, for a full 2 months after you sign up for my program, you can simply send an email to brad@bradbrowning.com and I'll give you 100% of your money back. And I'll give you more instructions on how to get your refund later in the video. And if you pick up my program today, you'll also be getting the audio version of my program at no additional cost. That means you'll be able to upload my training course on your phone or your iPod so you can learn my techniques at the gym, in the car, or on the go. I'm also going to throw in 3 additional bonuses at no extra cost. My first bonus is the Mend the Marriage video series. In these comprehensive videos, I'll teach you how to tackle the most common marriage issues. Everything from how to rebuild sexual desire to getting your spouse on board to fix your marriage, it's all covered in this extensive module. Next, you'll be receiving my Infidelity Survival Guide. Did your partner have an affair? Have you ever thought about having an affair? In this bonus guide, I'll tell you how to deal with this common marriage killer, and I'll teach you how you can make sure affairs never tear your marriage apart. Do you and your spouse have children? Marital problems and divorce have a tremendous psychological impact on children. In my Children in Divorce bonus ebook, I'll teach you exactly what you need to do to ensure that you help your children understand exactly what's going on, and I'll show you how you can shelter your children from the ordeal that you and your spouse are facing. Finally, you'll also be receiving my Money Matters Guide, a step-by-step solution for couples that often quarrel over finances and spending. Even if money isn't a core problem in your marriage, this bonus book will teach you how to ensure financial disagreements never turn into toxic, marriage-destroying arguments.